it is a bummer, I feel like, in a lot of ways, because again, when I feel like I got excited about NFTs and talked to people about what was good about NFTs, the creator royalties is something that I really believed in as a part of that, and was a good selling point that made people interested in it and say, oh, that's different and better than what has come before.
Two Bored Apes talking NFTs, DeFi, and some random stuff. Two Bored Apes talking NFTs, DeFi.
Welcome to the newest episode of Two Bored Apes. I'm Jamie. I'm here with Roy. I said newest episode because we're having a disagreement as to which number it is. My webcam is not aimed at me properly. This is a good start to the podcast. Roy, how are you?
Episode 58. I think it's 58. I'm well. How are you, Jamie?
Didn't we record 58 earlier today?
Well, so for people listening, we recorded. This is our third recording today. We recorded 2 Twitter Q&A episodes.
This has never happened before.
This is correct. But Jamie is going to be traveling, I think, for the next 2 weeks, and so we just needed to bank a couple of episodes just in case we don't get a chance to record while he's away, and that's what we did. And you know, because this one's going to come out first and recording it last, we had to start those off by saying it's episode 59, 57. Maybe this isn't 58.
Yeah, I'm not as confident as you. Anyway,
we didn't do 60.
Don't need to talk too long. We don't need to talk too long about what the number is. We should just hop into what the stuff we're supposed to talk about.
Yeah, this is an NFT
That's
podcast.
what I think.
We talk about NFTs and random stuff and occasionally DeFi. News of the week. News of the week.
News of the week.
It's a lot less something when I do it by myself and you're not joining me in the little jingle thing. But
the biggest thing to me is the Reddit NFTs, I think.
Oh, yeah.
There's been a lot of
That's the big news.
Stuff that has happened lately, but the Reddit stuff is the biggest. Now, do you want to give an overview of what it is or what?
I can give an overview. So Reddit, I think most people are familiar, is a giant online community type message board platform where basically anyone has had the ability to create their own community called subreddits. And they've been around for about, 15, 20 years. You know, they date back to like the fairly early stages of the Web 2 era of the internet. And they basically came out with NFTs. And importantly, they're not calling them NFTs. They're calling them digital collectibles or digital avatars. And it was about, I think, 2 to 3 months ago, they launched their first sort of round. They sort of collaborated, I think, with 30... maybe somewhere between 30 and 40 artists, and had them create like their avatars or their skins for these Reddit avatars, and they sold them via credit card. So like they made the onboarding process incredibly easy for people to buy. They were like, well, you can just sign up with a password. You don't need a seed phrase and all that kind of stuff. We don't even use crypto terminology, no blockchain, no NFT. Is just, hey, if you want to buy a Reddit avatar, it's $9.99, pay with your credit card. And I think they launched with like fairly mixed results. There was a little bit of buzz about it when it first came out, and then it sort of like quietened down, and most of us, like in the rest of the NFT space, didn't really think much of it. But then more recently, I think because maybe they airdropped like literally millions of these avatars to people. So like the big news headline was, there are now more people on Reddit with an Ethereum/Polygon wallet than OpenSea, because there were like 3 million people that had created a account on Reddit that effectively lets them have a Polygon wallet. And that started getting all this buzz and hype. And I think a few weeks ago, we had like the second round of Reddit artists create their, NFTs or their digital avatars, and they started being sold for fiat.
So let me just pause you for a second. Let me pause you. Reddit has a mascot, right? I think maybe his name is Snoo. I don't know if I made that up completely, though.
Sounds right.
And all these digital I feel like I made it up more than it's right, but who knows? But the avatars that they made are basically all just riffs on this, different outfits and styles of that character.
Yeah. I'm now trying to Google and see what name it is. I can't find this anywhere. But yeah, so these, it does look like it's Snoo. The Reddit alien is named Snoo. Okay.
Nailed it.
And then basically, like these were starting to sell and trend on OpenSea because they're Polygon NFTs, and OpenSea supports Polygon. And some of them were selling for like, 0.1, 0.5 ETH, and then the most expensive ones were going for 6 and 10 and 13 ETH, and I think maybe the highest sale is somewhere around the 20 ETH mark, and these were all bought for like maybe $100, or at like 150 might have been the most expensive one, and then the cheapest might have been like $9.99, and maybe even some of the
They have
rare ones
various
were
edition
airdropped.
sizes,
Yeah, there's a ton
right?
of these NFTs, like maybe hundreds of thousands, certainly tens
3
of
million
thousands.
wallets, right?
3 million wallets. Like, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of the paid ones as well, like the ones that are sort of non. I think the 3 million wallets ones that were airdropped for free are like in one category, and then there's this whole other category of where they had like artists come in and create their own skin or something like that. But yeah, it's been all the buzz this
Yeah,
week.
I mean,
It's
Reddit's huge.
mm-hmm.
It's not only a huge community, but it's also, interestingly, it's a community of communities. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so in that sense, you can kind of have this overarching collection, but then also all these different subreddits could sort of have variants and whatnot that they gravitate towards and stuff.
Yeah, it's massive. It's a we talk a lot about like mainstream adoption. What does that look like? How do big brands come in? How do we onboard more people? And this is like a perfect example of like Trojan horsing people into at least digital collectibles and avatars and PFPs. Not maybe not NFTs as a whole. And we got into this on the Twitter Q&A episode, which you're going to listen to in a week or two. But generally speaking, a lot of people are talking about how it's great that they're calling these digital collectibles and avatars, but you were saying how it's good, but it doesn't that they're missing the point when it comes to NFTs encompassing so much more than just this one area.
Have you seen so there's now a subreddit called Avatar Trading that's basically
Mm-hmm.
all about the buying and selling of these specific things. Have you looked at any of sort of the funny posts that people are posting, sort of
I've
mocking
seen a
people
couple.
for they're basically, the theme of what's happening is people are basically describing to NFT people why their NFTs are something valuable instead of useless JPEGs, using the
Yeah.
exact same arguments that we made before, but that they're not realizing that it's the exact same thing, and
Yeah.
it is a little humorous. Not sure how many of them are intentionally being funny and not serious, but it
Mm-hmm.
definitely seems like some of these people are totally serious. And
Yeah.
basically, what a lot of it boils down to is that they spend their time on Reddit. So what they're represented as on Reddit means a lot to them.
Mm.
And, the rest of us, theoretically, that were already around, spend our time on Twitter, and so care about how we're represented on Twitter. It is sort of the part of the big overarching thing I saw.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I saw there was another thing. I think Franklin,
Their limited edition.
Franklin,
60
who has
apes.
like 60 apes, he went over there and posted his like slide shot gif of his 68s, and I think he got like banned with
Yeah.
like, his account. His
He
post
got
got
banned
deleted, and thing was
immediately.
banned before the slideshow is like a minute 50 or whatever, and his post got taken down before a minute 50 had even been up. And
Yeah.
yeah,
He did get unbanned. I saw that, but it's still funny.
It's funny.
There's also a lot of people on NFT Twitter like trying to resist the urge to buy into these late, and it's so funny. There's like a lot of sort of joking and not joking talk about how the masses that get onboarded to NFTs were meant to be our exit liquidity, but now all these people are getting tempted into being the Redditors' exit liquidity by buying them at the top or whatever. I thought that was funny.
Yeah. I really, yeah, the meme that we are the exit liquidity for it's funny. And then
Yeah.
I think there was the day after, like there was a particular day this week where like I think attention peaked, and that's when everyone was talking about it and was buying these. I think the day after that there were like a bunch of posts in that subreddit about people going, "Ha, we got them, we got the Twitter guys to buy our NFTs and buy our bags."
Yeah, it's also, in a more serious note, it does kind of harken to something we've talked about before, is how there's sort of a lot of wishful thinking from people in existing projects that in the future, as more people get onboarded, the NFTs that they will care about is these ones that they own because they existed beforehand, which I feel like we've tried to caution people into thinking it's not so clear that that'll be the case, at least not with the majority of the collections. They're more likely to be really connected to whatever NFT project it is that actually onboards them, right? That's kind of what gets you into it, and that's what you identify with in so many ways. and there'll be some communities that they look around at probably and say, oh, that's a nice one, that's an aspirational one for me, I can relate to that one to some degree.
Hmm.
But by and large, it's like, they're not going to go, ooh, let me sell my top tier Reddit NFT for your Floor Roboto or whatever, like a lot of these people are
Right.
hoping.
Yeah. 100%. It is good though. Like we're seeing a lot of. I'm seeing a lot of.
Definitely.
Yeah. Like while
So
they may not be coming over
what
and buying our bags, I'm seeing people who are like, oh, hey guys, I'm new on Twitter. I sort of I've never used Twitter much. I've sort of chosen to use Reddit, but now I hear that this is the place to be if you want to learn about NFTs, and I'm pretty curious. Hi, and like I probably saw 2 dozen of those posts, and that's just like on my timeline in the course of a day or two. It seems like
Yeah.
there's curiosity has been piqued, and now people are starting to be like, all right, let's see what this whole NFT thing's about.
So another thing I wanted to say is that Reddit co-founder Alexis Ohanian,
Mm.
he's been a very big person in NFTs for about a year now, right? He started getting quite involved last year, as far as I know.
Hmm.
I don't actually know to what degree, if any, he's still related to Reddit.
I
But I
think he
just
left
thought that
about
was
two
worth
years ago,
mentioning.
but yeah.
Okay,
So he
maybe
left,
he's
but I
like
mean,
on the board
obviously,
of directors or something, but is no
yeah,
longer CEO, something like
obviously
that.
had a massive impact
But
in the direction that Reddit took. Yeah.
you would think. Oh, definitely then, yeah. But I'm sort
Mm.
of thinking also somehow it feels like he's involved in this, or
Mm.
you know, the people that are in charge have enough respect for where he's spending his time now to think about it or whatever. Because he seems fully into Web3 at this point. That's always what he's
Yeah.
talking about. Excuse me. All right, what else do we
Yeah.
have for news?
Apple's terrible Web3 policy. So, Jamie, how do you feel about Apple and the App Store in general?
I don't like Apple's App Store policies. I've talked about it before. I think it's they use their position in a way that is like rent seeking, where they're just basically collecting much more than they're bringing to the table, it seems to
Mm.
me. And it's sort of bad for innovation, and it's bad for certainly small but also big app creators. And there's a lot to it. If you look at like the Epic legal battle is sort of a big
Mm.
um large scale case of it, where they're really dissecting what it is about Apple's App Store policies that I don't particularly care for, and lots of people don't. Um,
Mm.
so I don't really need to go all that much into it. But if you're interested in the concept of it, you can read stuff relating to that court case, or various Stratechery posts and Matthew Ball policy or posts. We'll sort of talk about that kind of thing. But so anyway, they for a while now have basically had a policy that you couldn't really do anything NFT related whatsoever,
Mm.
basically within apps. And they updated it. So now you basically can, but only as long as you're paying the Apple tax and the NFT doesn't provide you with any actual utility itself that exists outside of the walled garden of the Apple App Store policy. You can't have it unlock anything within the app and all that kind of thing.
No, I think you
Is that
can,
about
but
right?
only. Yeah, I mean that's about right. But you can have it be like token gated content and stuff within the app, but only if it was
If it's
bought on the
right.
app, which means that they have to take their 30%. So you can't have
Yeah,
like
which is enormous,
it's
right? Because
crazy.
we're
Yeah.
talking about like OpenSea and stuff like that. It was at 5 or something, and then the competition brought it down to 2.5, or it was
I think it's
always
been
at
two
two
and a
and a
half
half, right?
forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2.5 is like where we started with
Yeah.
open, Web3 marketplaces, and Apple's at 30. And
Yeah.
it's bad because another specific example that you can get into about how it's so crazy is that Roblox, I don't know how much you know about it, but it's basically a game, so to speak, but it's also one where you can make mini games within it, and that's the main thing. And it's got a whole little bit of a what's the thing, like an economy. It's got an economy in it, right? They have these Roblox, and people can pay a little bit of money to get access to these new games and
Mm.
experiences that other people create. But because it's all happening like within this app, right? Roblox, the company, is already having to pay a 30% tax to Apple before they even get to break up the money between them and the people within the app that are creating it. So it's like Roblox and the people actually creating these games are both getting less of a percentage of it than Apple for just being for the fact that it's happening on an iPhone. And it's like, people will say, well, then you got to do it on another thing in competition and blah, blah, blah. But it's like the same thing doesn't apply to whoever's providing the electricity to play these games or the cellular data. It's like Verizon's not getting a 30% cut. The electric company's not getting a 30%. Like, why is Apple's position that special? And there's sort of various answers to that. And some people find them satisfying and some don't. But that's sort of the skinny of what's been happening and what has happened.
Yeah. It's sort of like flies in the face of everything Web3. And it sucks because basically up until now, Web3 NFTs have been very sort of desktop native. Like a lot of websites and things are just not really usable or not easily usable on like a mobile experience. And this sort of just makes that even less likely to sort of be a thing that changes in the short to medium term because there's very little incentive. There's basically no desire for any Web3 builder to be like, oh, okay, we're going to create an app and give Apple 30%. It's just like, no, we'll just not do that. Yeah.
Yeah. It is a bummer too, because, that's sort of the argument that it's sort of vaguely monopolistic because of the fact that, and in a truer sense, there's more of a duopoly going on with the smartphone thing because Google controls the other half of it. But because Apple controls the whole stack from the hardware down to the software, if you're within that ecosystem, it's just monopoly control all the way from the top to the bottom. Just as a simple, for instance, basically, they'll have things in the app, in the phone, hardware capabilities, and they'll just allow the phone to have access to those capabilities in their homegrown apps. So that way you can have extra stuff. But the app developers in the ecosystem cannot use near field communication is the one specifically that I know of. And so Apple can make their Apple Wallet with it, but in a literally, clearly non-competitive way. They can't have competitors doing it because if you're an app store, an app rather maker, they just do not allow you to use the phone's near field communication reader. And so that kind of thing to me is very unfair and stuff that theoretically, legislators and the judicial branch of the government can look at and go, that's actually not fair. But it's sort of, this is another thing where like when the government strikes back against crypto or whatever, like it's called Web3 for a reason, right? In theory, we're sort of trying to replace Web 2. So Web 2 is going to fight back. They're not just going to, we have trillions of dollars of value in our businesses. We're not just going to give up without a fight. So none of it should be surprising to people. It's vaguely disappointing just because it's, bad in so many ways, but it's also so expected that if you're really let down by it, it feels like you're very naive to have thought that they would do differently.
Yeah. This sort of takes us. I mean, do you have anything else to say about this? Otherwise, we'll jump to the next topic.
Not really. I feel like I got out my main points.
So this brings us to like this marketplace aggregator war that we've started seeing over the last week. I don't know if war is the right word, but just there's been a lot of interesting stuff. Obviously, Blur launched last week, and we covered that, I believe, last week on the podcast. And then over the course of the last few days, basically X2Y2, which is another marketplace, came out and basically publicly said to Blur, you can't use our API keys to facilitate listing of our NFTs on your marketplace, which was an interesting move. And I think that they got a lot of negative response to that. And then today, LooksRare announced they go into 0% creator royalties with a twist by giving 25% of their platform fee back to the creators and the project contract owners. Things are sort of just heating up in this space, and I find it. So the X2Y2 thing is interesting because their rationale for not giving Blur API access is they're happy to give API access to other marketplaces and other aggregators, but not a platform that's both, because Jamie just knocked over his microphone. Not a platform that's both, for whatever reason that they have. That they think they're going to create a monopoly, which, I mean, they're giving it to Gem and OpenSea, and that's the same company, so it's kind of an interesting place to draw a line in the sand. And I don't know. What do you think about all of this?
I think for a while, like probably around when LooksRare came out. So I just want to also, when you were describing that, the way you specifically phrased X2Y2 making their communications, it almost sounded like you were saying that X2Y2 as a marketplace came out, and then this is a thing that they said. But
Oh, right,
X2Y2
right.
has
No, they've
been
been around
around
for a
from
while.
before Blur. I just want to clear that up for anybody listening. But
Many
what?
months. I just said many months
Okay.
they've been around for.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, but once Looks Rare came out, basically, I think that we both talked on this podcast about how it only makes sense that the fact that these are digital goods and the digital goods are being transferred on a blockchain that the websites do not have to pay for, that it's just we're going to see the the fee trend down towards zero,
Mm,
because
yeah.
that's just the natural way of moving around bits on the internet. The cost is so little that you kind of scale up and then prices go down in a perfect
Hmm.
world. And so this is kind of just some of maybe the early stages that we're seeing of that, where the marketplaces are going, okay, well, let's look at our costs on these transactions that we're putting to people. Okay, we have our fees and we have the creator fees, right? Let's get rid of the creator fees first. Obviously, the marketplaces are more interested in their own fees than the creator fees. Um, and so, creators are not thrilled about that. Traders are thrilled about it, and so on and so forth. And these are just kind of the heating up battles of the various marketplaces'
Mm,
attempts at it. Um, yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's a whole Solana side to this story as well that's sort of been happening in parallel. And I think that they've been like a month ahead of the Ethereum space, which was, so I was on a Twitter space like a couple of months ago talking to someone. It was actually Frank, who's behind DGods and Utes, and he was talking about how, because this was just around the time that SudoSwap came out and like didn't honor royalties, and then he was like, this is like deja vu. We did this whole thing like a month ago over in Solana because they have Magic Eden, which is like the massive marketplace, kind of like OpenSea, and then this other marketplace called Your came out, and they were just like not honoring royalties at all. And over time, more and more people started using that, and effectively, I think a couple of weeks ago, Magic Eden then announced, "All right, we're just going to 0% royalties." And so like they've had this similar thing, and I think we're seeing it play out on Ethereum now, where yeah, it sucks. It's tricky. I think we spoke about again in the Twitter Q&A that you'll hear about in a week or two. Is like if it was possible to enforce royalties on chain, that would be amazing. That would solve all these problems, but it's not. So now we're like everyone's trying to figure out, well, okay, what is the least worst option for everyone, taking in
Mhm.
consideration that not all like NFT types are created equal, not all collectors are created equal, not all investors have the same
Yeah.
incentives in mind, et cetera,
the
et cetera.
the creators and the buyers and the marketplaces sort of all have different incentives, and so
Mm.
this is the nature of multi-person societies, right? Is that there's competing interests, so you can't all just always come to a conclusion. So there's compromises, and there's winners, and there's losers, and there's
Mhm.
things that are morally right and morally wrong, and blah blah blah. It's that's the nature of these things. It is a bummer,
Yeah.
I feel like, in a lot of ways, because again, when I feel like I got excited about NFTs and talked to people about what was good about NFTs, the creator royalties is something that I really believed in as a part of that, and was a good selling point that made people interested in it and say, oh, that's different and better than what has come before. And
Mm.
so to see how quickly that is being sort of targeted as a thing to better line the pockets of the other participants in the marketplace,
Mm.
the ones who in so many ways are not creating the value of these things. The marketplaces are doing something, but really the traders are not doing much. They're just
No.
trying to they're just trying to increase their margin on an activity that nobody necessarily asked them to do in the first place, and
Mhm.
are in so many cases trading art like commodities, and that kind of thing. Again, it's very rational in their own financial interest for them to want these things, um, and then sort of the nature of the crypto space in general means the marketplaces will pop up, right? If the people don't want to pay the things, again, because it's not enforceable on chain, they
Mhm.
largely won't. One
Yeah.
of the first blows I will say to this whole thing was, you know, on OpenSea for a long time, you could do private transfers right on their platform, and that would get you around the fees. And eventually they said, we're not actually going to allow that anymore. And, you know, so that was kind of one of the first blows, basically, to people's idea that all these royalties, you know, were going to be enforced. What was the OpenSea allowing it, and then OpenSea not allowing it was sort of the idea that the people would be able to get around it, right? So there's like the competing interests, and that was sort of the first blow in each direction.
Yeah, it's been sort of I call it like the dirty little secret of the space for a long time, where I mean, many of us, myself included, for a very long time, were like, "Oh, of course they're enforceable in smart contracts. That's the whole point of smart contracts. They're meant to, you know, allow for stuff like this forever." And then you realize, okay, that's it. Just doesn't work that way. Technically, it just can't work that way. And it's like, okay, well that sucks. You know, because it's been used as one of the greatest selling points to sort of encourage, incentivize, and get people to create in this space the idea of perpetual royalties. And now it's sort of that
right
thing is eroding somewhat. Like it's still TBD.
Yeah, so there's sort of an attempt from people in the space that are sort of creator minded to have it be socially enforced, right? Because it can't be enforced on chain. It has to be sort of enforced just by the nature of what the community finds acceptable and not acceptable. And so again, we're having the people that think it's acceptable and not acceptable battling back and giving their arguments and kind of acting in their own best interests. But it is funny when you see basically the marketplaces act like, okay, creator royalties are optional, but obviously our marketplace fees, that's not optional. You always have to pay that when you're transacting here. That is a funny little step in the march down to 0% fees. But again, it's just showing, you know, almost everybody acting in their own interest, which is the nature of things.
It is the nature of things. I think that's it.
Some say that's why, you know, no form of government really works, right? I mean, they all work sort of, but they all don't work sort of, because you can design whatever clever system you want, but the people in charge in any system are self-interested, right? And so you have a very centralized system, you have a very decentralized system, you have individual choice, you have, you know, the good of the needs outweigh the good of the few. But if the people making the decisions and deciding who's the many, who's the few, how do we divvy it up, all this good stuff, care more about themselves than actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, it doesn't fucking matter how cleverly designed the system is.
That's why communism doesn't work, right? Kind of.
Right. It's why none of them work ultimately, you know? Because there's fucking humans in charge of the decision making instead of something that's both moral and intelligent. We have to substitute
AI
humans in for that.
That's
not going to work either. They don't give a shit about us. That's the problem with them. Okay, this has been News of the Week. News of the week. Next segment. Art blocks. This is art blocks. People are buying art blocks again. That's sort of the main thing, right? Season 8 ended. Season 8 of Curated, which was the last curated project or group of projects that would have the seasonal designation. So that's done with. Art blocks Curated is going to continue, but there will never be that seasonal designation again. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And we've just seen sort of a fairly significant bull run over the last week, maybe or so, week and a bit. I think it sort of it began because I think there are two catalysts. One is the end of two main catalysts. I'm sure there are more. One is the end of the season 8 designation. The other was Seed Phrase, the person who sold the hoodie ape punk, which is it's a mouthful of words. But the crypto punk with the hoodie trade and the ape trade for like 3,100 ETH went and spent like 1,000 to 1,500 ETH on various things, and a large amount of that was art blocks. And then other people started jumping in, and I think people are trying to complete their curated sets, and prices are just going up a lot across the board.
Yeah, and it's also the price of ETH in US dollar terms has been going up lately. And that's just a thing that, when we have the Q&A episodes, we so frequently get questions about what we think the correlation between ETH prices and NFT prices is. And the conventional wisdom amongst a lot of people is that when ETH prices go up in US dollar terms, NFT prices will go down in ETH terms, and vice versa. But as we've said, we've seen all of the combinations of that.
Yeah.
And this is a particular instance where we have ETH prices going up and NFT prices going up in ETH terms. So sort of a double jump in US dollar terms.
Yeah, which is great for those of us with art blocks and those that have been sort of buying the dip, I guess, or
yeah, I probably acquired maybe, I don't know, 25 art blocks pieces or something so far in the year. And then as this has happened, I've now sold 2 or maybe 3. I think the algorithm will be number 3 when it sells. It's listed, I think, at the floor right now.
Yeah.
So, it was sort of surprising the first time one sold, because I hadn't been used to having any of my NFTs sell, except for the ones that I was really trying to get rid of to harvest the losses that I had no longer believed in. And now stuff that I actually like, art blocks, a couple of them are selling for the prices that I've had them listed for.
Yeah, I had a Subscape sell last week, and I was kind of bummed because I forgot that I had it listed. I listed
That'll
it on
happen.
Archipelago and OpenSea, and then this was like a while back when I was sort of looking for liquidity, and I listed a whole bunch of stuff, and then I no longer needed liquidity, so I went ahead and canceled I think it was the Archipelago listing, and I think I'd forgotten that I'd also listed on OpenSea, and then someone came along, and it was, when I listed it, it was like 50% above floor, and then the floor caught up and it sold, and I was like, oh damn, kind of bummed about that.
There's just so many classic NFT stories in that little story. The double marketplace, the only canceled one, the listed it safely above floor and didn't notice that it got up. All that's all so familiar. I know all of those beats.
Yep. But
let's talk about art blocks outside of the market of it, though. We got a new curated coming up. We got the bracelets coming up. There's a new website. Talk about all of this stuff, Roy. I've been doing a lot of manual labor today, so I'm going to sit back and you talk about it.
Have you now? You
yes.
You mowed 1/8 of your garden.
Yeah, the battery died. I did not get to mow as much of the lawn as I had planned on, but I did a lot of other stuff first. So anyway,
what
go
are
ahead.
The manual? Oh, okay. We're going to get into this. Artblocks has been going through a big, I guess, change shift. They're calling it Artblocks 2.0, where they're making some big changes, and part of that was the ending of season 8. Another thing was changing factory and curated into one section called Artblocks Presents, and part of it is a new website which launched, I think yesterday or the day before, or very, very recently, maybe even within the last 24 hours. And I really like it a lot more than the old one. I think it's easier to browse and find collections and just see. It's just that the usability of it is improved, in my opinion. It's nothing drastic or crazy or like mind blowing. It's just, to me, a nicer experience. And
there's some similarity for sure to the old one. You're not going to go and go, whoa, where is everything? It's pretty similar, but it's simplified in a lot of ways, I think.
Yeah. And then
the information used to be a little bit more spread across the screen, if that makes sense, and the menus and stuff, and it's a little bit more streamlined now, it feels like.
Yeah. Easier to find, I would say. More intuitive. Anyway, and then sort of in the last few hours, they made an announcement about, I think Snowfro made the announcement about Art Blocks friendship bracelets, which I only skimmed the announcement because I was running into a Twitter space.
I read all the words.
This, but why don't you go ahead and tell us what it is then?
Well, basically it's an airdrop to every single wallet that owns an Art Blocks piece, and as of the snapshot, I can't remember if the snapshot's in the future 26th. A couple days ago. Yeah, a couple days ago. That's smart so that people don't game it. And they're basically going to send 2 of these to every person. It's I can't tell. It didn't seem to me clear that they definitely have a physical version of all of these, but it seemed like it was kind of inevitable. But I think technically they didn't say anything about that. But anyway, the idea is they're going to give 2 of these friendship bracelet NFTs to everybody that has a thing. And they basically want, theoretically, for people to take one of them and give it to a friend And I think ultimately the idea of it is to um, try and bridge a little bit of the gap between the physical and the digital, but also to expand the size of the community.
This is a lot of bracelets. Like, I think
Yeah,
every single wallet that owned your the only requisite was you had one art blocks piece. And so I think I briefly was skimming Block Talk and someone said the number 70,000. So I don't know if that's 70,000 bracelets or there's 70,000 wallets, 100. I would imagine it's 70,000 bracelets. There's probably 35,000 wallets that own an art blocks piece, which is a lot. But yeah, it's like it's unlikely to be like, this is not some airdrop worth a ton of value or ETH. It's just a nice, pleasant, fun, cool, interesting thing that they're doing, and I'm looking forward to it. Like, I think it's going to be cool, and just a nice little perk.
yeah. So I just pulled up Artblock's um, contract on
Boon
EtherScan.
Analytics.
It looks like there's 35,127 holders.
There we go. So like 70, just over 70,000 of these bracelets. And then I think Snowfro also mentioned that in the future, they're probably planning to do like a much larger distribution of this, probably on an L2. And I mean, if you think 2, 3, 5 years out, art blocks might have hundreds of thousands, millions of people interacting with it. Giving them all friendship bracelets is cool. But I think he was sort of hinting that, these are not necessarily going to be a rare, scarce item. Yeah.
Don't necessarily think of them as that, because our plan is to use these to expand the community, and we're going to expand the number of these in the future in order to do so. But I do also want to kind of go back to the physical thing. I feel like when I was reading the update, which just happened like 25 minutes ago, so I should remember it better. But the beginning of it, it feels like he's talking a lot about the physical world, furniture, stuff like that. Kind of actually like we talked about on the Waiting to Be Signed podcast recently. And then talks about how he's collaborating with Alexis Andre on this project. But it did seem like he was talking a lot about physical stuff, but then kind of backed off of that when they got into the specifics of what the holders are getting. Maybe there'll be some sort of like token gated merch purchase, right? Of a non-expensive $10 bracelets of these things. Once the airdrop actually happens, that would make a lot of sense to me.
Upcoming curated, there's an announcement again earlier today. There's been a lot of Artblocks announcements in the last couple of days. The
first non-seasonal one, right?
It is, yeah. It's by Lovid, and it says Lovid's first on-chain generative work. Tide Predictor builds a bridge from video synthesizer patches to algorithmic code-derived imagery. The curation board was particularly impressed by the way Tide Predictor is using the expansive field of generative art to explore constraints of analog media and scientific phenomena. Now, I tried to load this just before we were jumping into the recording. Actually, while I was waiting for you to wake up from your almost nap and get here, but my computer was like really lagging, so I'm guessing it's like a fairly intensive piece of art to load, and I don't really know what it looks like other than it's in my like 8 seconds of looking at it. It kind of reminded me of Endless Nameless meets Phase from the drop.
Yeah, it's to me, it's a little bit more like maybe color study is something that it's very similar to. But again, I've seen one. I haven't looked at like the staging area. I've just looked at the 1 mint that comes up when you look at the upcoming project. So there's not a ton to go on, but there's definitely a lot of like very digital color gradients. But so that's what reminds me of color study. But there is some level of animation to it, which kind of hints at the Endless Nameless end of the spectrum that you're talking about. I've never heard of Lovid, but if you go to Lovid's website, it's very sort of experimental, physical, modern type stuff. So this might be sort of an interesting person who, is straddling that line and is somebody that's now getting their work on chain, which is sort of interesting to see, legitimate artists that are already sort of tech forward, but haven't yet embraced this. That's sort of an interesting and good thing to see, logical thing to see too.
Yeah, 100%. Anything else in the art blocks, generative art front?
We were on the Waiting to Be Signed podcast. I think the episode is going to be. It was fun. I think the episode is going to be coming out in like a week, and people should check it out. Subscribe to the podcast, and then you'll get the episode whenever it's ready.
Yeah, if it's maybe we'll put a link to like their general page. Probably our specific episode won't be out, but we'll post a link to their page or their Twitter or something in the show notes so you can find that.
Art blogs and generative art in general.
All right. I want to give an update on what's happening at ZenAcademy. It's been an exciting time. We launched something. I can't remember if I mentioned it last week or not, but 30 Days of NFTs is an email-based course that we created. It's designed for anyone to anyone's interested in learning about NFTs and sort of getting a NFT 101 course via email. Go to 30daysofnfts.com, and it's really
30 with numbers or letters, THIRTY or 30?
No, numbers. Yeah, 30daysofnfts.com. And you put your email address in, and then just every day for the next 30 days, you'll receive an email that is like a 3 to 5 minute read. It's meant to be fairly quick and digestible and not overwhelming. And like we start with what is an NFT, and then what is a blockchain, and then what is a wallet, and then how to set up a wallet and wallet security, and yada yada yada. And yes, Jamie has his hand raised.
So say I sign up for this newsletter on like day 7. Is the first one I get 1 and it just lasts 30 days for me until I catch up, or do I get sent day 7 and then I have to somehow find days 1 through 6?
Yep. No,
I don't think I asked a yes or no question.
Magical. I thought you did. He's like you. Anyway,
I think I gave 2 options.
Maybe you did. Anyway, no matter when you sign up or when anyone signs up, they immediately get day 0, which is like an instant just welcome to the course message, and then I think a few hours later you kick off day 1, and then the next day, day 2, day 3. It's just all automated on this magical email platform thing that handles.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, because you've done like the 12 days of Zenmas before, and that is literally 12 days on a calendar where the thing is happening. But this is just a 30-day course that people can essentially get delivered to their email box whenever they want.
At any time. And we're working on, we're going to put it all into like a PDF format or like a website, just so for the people that maybe want to jump ahead and they don't want to wait 30 days, or for the people that have taken it and they want to go back and be like, oh, I want to go and see what the piece on wallet security, so they don't have to go to the email and find day 30 or day 12 or whatever. It's just go to the website. So,
but it's also nice to have it in one place, because somebody may want to learn about NFTs for 40 minutes in a row, and then they can just go to the website or the PDF and kind of just go through the whole thing, rather than have the 30 days, which is also a nice format, but it's good to have both on offer.
Yeah. So we're definitely working on that. And actually something cool that's come out is that we've had a lot of people reach out from where the English isn't their first language, and maybe they sort of struggled to watch my YouTube content or listen to even the podcast or somewhere, whereas when it's in written content, they can sort of consume it at their own pace or use a translator. And then sort of as an extension of that, we've had people sort of say, hey, this is awesome. Can we translate it into our own language? And we're probably going to be doing that, but we want to make sure that, so there's a bunch of stuff that we need to just fix. But then Jamie's smoking. Why are you smoking?
I'm curious how your German is coming along now that we're talking about other languages.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. I'm not
okay.
That's a whole other story. But anyway, we will eventually be translating into a whole bunch of languages, which is very cool and exciting. And the other ZenAcademy update I want to make is kind of an update of an update, but on November 1st. So I think that's Tuesday next week. I'm going to be holding a town hall where I'm basically going to just share the plans for the next 6 months. I'm going to touch on the PFP project. We have a new way to onboard a lot of people to ZenAcademy with a free NFT tier, effectively, and some 333 club updates, and just the whole future plan and all that kind of stuff. So very excited for that, and kicking off the next phases of ZenAcademy. Now Jamie's smirking again.
I'm smirking again because I thought the idea of you guys going, yes, we're going to onboard people. We have this idea for friendship bracelet NFTs, and just completely copying the Art Blocks idea is your next phase. It's just a funny thought that crossed my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea, but yeah, we have our own spin. We have our own spin on that, basically.
But no, truly, I think the idea of just getting people to have a wallet, right? Getting them to have an NFT without having to do something. And then you can just, they have the sense of ownership. They can look at who else is having it and just get people a little bit curious about the space in a way that is not just cynically, hey, if you do this, you can flip some and make money, which is so much of what the attempted onboarding looked like last year. And that's just so hard to make that last.
Once someone has like literally one NFT, it's like, it's an exciting feeling to be like, oh, I own something digitally. And then once you start maybe doing stuff with it doesn't have to be much. If you just like verify in a Discord, it's like, hey, I just used it. How did this technology work? It just connected to my, that's cool. And then,
yep.
Yeah.
I got access to this ZenAcademy free roll because of this thing, so just simple stuff.
Yep. So that's it on the ZenAcademy front. We should announce Jaime smoking
read
again.
Yeah. I want you to read last week's winners of the of the Tez NFT giveaway. We just have Tez addresses in the show notes. That's
correct.
There's no way to read
all
that
we have
on air, right?
is.
So congratulations to TZ1MPT ST6NC.
I figured we'd just read the last like 5 digits of each
Oh
address,
yeah, that's the convention, huh? That's not as funny as my mocking though.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, we picked last week. We ran a giveaway where we said we'll pick 3 winners, and then Jaime and I will each send each of these winners a piece of art from our Tezos collection. So we will do that. The 3 winner number 1, Tez address ends in N67AT. Winner number 2's Tez address ends in ULxDf, and winner number 3's Tez address ends in tGFmn.
Correct.
We'll post these. Jaime was checking my work. I could see him highlighting in the Google Doc, just like waiting for me to slip up and be like, I
was following along and appreciating how good you were doing, Roy. That's all.
I'll allow it then.
Okay.
We should do another giveaway. We should play What Am I Thinking?
We should
decide what we want to give away, and then do that. I'll give away an Artblocks NFT.
I have a word. Okay. You're going to give away an Artblocks NFT, huh?
I'm going to give away an Artblocks one. I'll decide which one later on. All right. Maybe I'll explain the game for the new listeners. So we play a game most weeks called What Am I Thinking, where Jaime and I each independently think of a word or a short phrase to begin with. Then we do a countdown, 3, 2, 1. We both say the word or the phrase, and then we kind of repeat that, except the goal then is to try and think of the word that's in between the two words that we said. And we just keep doing that over and over until we get to a word. And then that word is used as the password for this giveaway. All right.
Yes, the goal is for us to say the same word.
Yeah. All right, I got one.
3, 2, 1. Maple.
Coat hanger.
You said Colonel?
Coat hanger.
Okay, coat hanger. I wish your internet connection was better at this hotel. Coat hanger and maple. Not a lot of crossover there, but we can make something work here.
I got something.
I do not. That was poor. I do not. I'll just say something, I guess.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Tree.
Wood.
Tree and wood. Okay, those are very close.
They are very close.
Almost too close. This happens sometimes too, where the words are practically
the same. Circle each other.
And wood. Tree and wood.
I got one.
Okay, I got one as well, I guess. 3, 2, 1. Log.
Bark.
Ooh, I thought about bark. Bark was my first instinct. I'm not going to say the other ones. Okay, bark and log. Bark and log. Okay. I got a word, I think.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Branch.
Forest. Ooh, branch was my first instinct. Branch and forest.
Too bad we can't say tree because we already said that.
Oh, no.
Okay. I have a word, though, I think.
Me too.
Three, two, one. Wood.
Amazon.
Wood and
Ooh.
Amazon. Wood and Amazon. I have another word.
I have another word.
3, 2, 1. Lumber.
Deforestation.
Oh my God. We're really circling the drain right now. Lumber and deforestation. Fuck. Oh shit. I hate this when we get this close. And we've already exhausted like so many things in this realm.
Okay. All right. We're gonna keep going.
3, 2, 1. Commodities.
Chicken.
And commodities. 3, 2, 1. Food. Okay, there we go. That was funny.
You just need a reset sometimes. You just need a reset.
Wow, we were so close so early on that one. All right, so if you send the word food to some Google form that we're going to have a link to, right?
No, we're going to have it's not Google form. It'll be
Roy's going to tell you what happens right now, and I'm going to sit back.
Yep. We're going to have a pre-mint link in the show notes. And in order to access pre-mint, Jamie's laughing again.
I'm joking.
In order to access it, you'll need a password. And the password is food. And then you sign up, and before we record the next time, it actually might be a few weeks because Jamie's away. So we might leave this one open for like 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll select a winner, and then I will send that winner an Artblocks NFT. And in the next week or so, Jamie and I, hopefully in the next few days, we'll send out some Tezos NFTs.
I think I'll probably do it today, like right after this, before I head out.
Well, I'll try to do it this weekend then.
That's easy enough.
Yeah.
So this has been another episode. Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, review, tell a friend. Donate blood.
Yeah.
Now you've taken my thing.
I've taken yours, and you've taken mine.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.